Good. See you better actually.
Great, thank you. Where are you today?
I'm at home. Like I'm living at my host family. So I'm staying in
Where
yeah.
is it?
State College, Pennsylvania, USA.
Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Good for you. Well, it's nice to speak with you, and thanks for organizing to make this possible. And I see you have a few questions to ask.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep. I'm.
Great. And is the sound and the light okay for your purposes?
Yeah. It's all good. Yeah.
Super. How do you pronounce your name?
Qua.
Kwa.
Qua. Yeah.
Kwa. All right, Kwa. It's nice to have a chance to meet you. How long have you been in Pennsylvania?
I came here in 2016, at the end of 2016, so it's been, yeah, probably two
I
years.
used to live. I'm in Toronto today. I used to live not too far away. I lived in Maryland, so I was
Oh,
a
okay.
test pilot with the Navy down in Maryland. Lived there for a few years. Anyway, you had some questions, sir.
Yep. Okay. I sent you on the email. Do you see it, or should I read it to you?
Well, whatever's most convenient for you.
Okay, I can read it to you then. Where is it? Okay. So my first question is about your experience. What was like a regular day in when you were working in the space station? Like what most specifically, what work were you doing every day? It's just
So I flew in space three times. I
okay.
flew to help build the Russian space station Mir on my first flight using the space shuttle. On my second flight, I flew with the space shuttle to help build the International Space Station. So those were quite different. And then on my third flight, I flew a Russian rocket ship to live on board and help run and then command the International Space Station. So the days were very different when you
Okay.
ask what a typical day is. On my first flight, we were using the big robot arm to build Mir. On the second flight, I did two spacewalks.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's a wildly different venture. And then on my third flight, I was in space for 5 months, running the experiments and taking care of the ship on board. Maybe the easiest answer is for the third flight, um, when you had some regularity to the work pattern. The alarm would go off. My watch alarm would go off at 6 a.m. I would read the notes sent up from mission control. There's mission controls all around the world. There's one in Houston, one in Montreal, one in Munich, one in Moscow, and one in Tokyo. And they would have all put together a big briefing note. Then we'd all grab a quick bite to eat, use the toilet, get cleaned up, and then we'd have a briefing with mission controls in the morning. They tell us the plan of the day. And then there's a schedule that dictates exactly what you're doing
Oh,
down to
okay.
5 minute increments for the whole 6 months that you're up there. A big red line moving across the computer screen. So you try and keep ahead of the red line, and you may be doing a nanoparticle experiment or a human physiology experiment or
Ooh.
flame or measuring the radiation environment or testing various types of equipment or running observation equipment that's looking at the world or looking at the universe or testing new spaceship design equipment, for carbon dioxide removal or completely closing the environmental control loop. You're running all those experiments on board. And
Oh.
then you have to fix things because the space station breaks. You need to exercise 2 hours a day just to keep your muscular strength and your cardiovascular system and your bone density. And you need to eat and you need to clean up. And so you'd work about a 16-hour day every day. And then in the evening, you'd read up and you do another debrief with all the mission controls. And then you'd read up and plan and study for the next day. And
Oh.
then it would come around to bedtime, and we were given about 7 or 7.5 hours sleep every night. And I'd use the first hour of my sleep to do personal projects rather than sleep. To
Oh.
take pictures out the window, or to write music and record music, or
Uh.
to talk with my family, or to try and have the human side of the experience. And I did that every day for 5 months.
Oh,
and very, very busy, very demanding, a huge variety of mental tasks, but at the same time, really interesting and a lot of fun.
yeah, that's a lot of information. I really didn't expect you to like tell a lot of things like that, but man, that's a lot of stuff. And
Yep.
when you came in, that is there anything that was surprising, unexpected that happened that you were like, whoa, I didn't really expect it, or I didn't really.
Well, I decided to be an astronaut when I was 9 years old. And so I started getting ready when I was nine. I,
Oh,
um, I tried to learn how things worked. I got my pilot's license when I was 15, my powered license when I was 16. I joined the Air Force. I got an engineering degree, and then I went to two other graduate schools. I became a military pilot and then a fighter pilot flying F 18s. And then I went to test pilot school and studied as a test pilot and then became one of the world's test pilots. And then I worked with the US Navy as a test pilot. And from all of that, I got selected as an astronaut. And then I studied and trained for 20 years every day
oh,
as an astronaut,
okay.
studying and learning and simulating and training, just so that, 40 years of studying and training, just so that I would not be surprised and
Oh,
unprepared when
okay,
I got to orbit.
okay.
Um, no one wants a surprised astronaut. If something is happening that you're unprepared for, then who's going to deal with it? You're the only people there. So,
That's
so
true.
I spent my entire adult life trying to gain all the skills that I needed so that nothing would take us by surprise. And there were lots of things that were different than planned. Nothing happened exactly like you planned,
Yeah.
but everything was somewhere within the capability of myself and of my crew. The whole thing was more delightful than you expect. The world is more beautiful than you expect. It's much more emotional and personal and human than you might expect. But we launch incredibly prepared so that we don't just have to be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, I was. Yeah, that was like I was like expecting like small stuff, but yeah, it should be. We shouldn't be like having unsurprising astronaut stuff. And okay, from
Yeah,
that,
yeah, we work really hard not to be surprised.
okay. So as an astronaut, you travel space travel a lot. What do you think in the like potential in the future of space travel? And do you think there'll be a day that we have to like move and be able to move entirely off the Earth to live somewhere else?
We moved entirely off the Earth 18 years ago. We've had people continuously living off the Earth for the last 18 years.
Like,
So that already happened. Um,
is there people
not for
still?
everybody, not for
Yeah.
everybody, but we have had people continuously since you were born. People have been living entirely off the Earth on board the International Space Station. People from 15 countries all around the world. We left Earth
Oh,
entirely in the year 2000. So that's a big change. That had never happened before in history. We'd only gone temporarily, but we've learned as a species how to entirely leave Earth. And in all exploration has always been someone having an imagination and a desire to go somewhere else, and then they push technology to its limit to try and allow them to go explore that new place, whether the new place is Australia or New Zealand or Hawaii or Antarctica or orbiting the world or the moon, or with robots even further. New Horizons has already gone past Pluto, and Voyagers 1 and 2 have already left our solar system, are in interstellar space. So it's always been that trade off between curiosity and technology. And so when you ask, what's the potential? It's just a matter of how good our technology gets.
okay.
What will allow us to go even further than orbiting the world? The next logical step is the moon. We've only just visited the moon and sent a dozen people to walk on the surface and 24 people to go there and orbit the moon and come back. But our technology is good enough now to go stay. And I
Okay.
think that'll be the next logical step, is to take the best of our technology and use it to set up permanent habitation on the moon. It's only 3 days away. it's like whatever from Pennsylvania to I don't know, driving to maybe Phoenix.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania to Phoenix. It's about that far away. You know, um, and it takes some effort for you to drive to Phoenix. You have to do a lot of things, especially if you have to maintain your own car. So we have a lot of things to learn. But once we've lived on the moon for a while and learned how to do that and sent our little robot probes even further, eventually we'll be able to figure out how to go further. Mars, it makes a lot of sense because it has water and it has an atmosphere. But all history of human exploration has been that trade-off between curiosity and technology, and it's not suddenly going to stop.
Okay. Yeah, because I heard of like one of the biggest problem is like having enough energy, like oxygen for us to breathe, or even energy to travel further. Like I watched like a I think a Black show that talked about taking energy from asteroid and stuff. So so people there's people that living there are people that living outside of the Earth right now. Uh, are they able to like having enough oxygen and energy to stay there for like really long, or they keep supplying it from somewhere?
We're continuing to supply the International Space Station, but if we cut off all supplies from Earth, the crew's good for about a year, maybe a year and a half, before they'd have to come back to Earth. And there's several things they'd run out of: food, oxygen, fuel for the spaceship, various consumables, some of the air purification equipment. There's always a big list of what we're going to run out of first. But fortunately, we launch resupply ships from Japan, from Europe, from Russia, and from the United States. So there's lots of different resupply. But you're right, to go further, we have to cut the umbilical cord from Earth. And so we need to be able to recycle everything, or perhaps get our energy from places on the moon, or grow them and recycle them, turn the spaceship
Oh,
into
okay.
a little tiny Earth. It seems crazy, but sailing around the world seemed crazy in 1491, and yet we figured out how to do that with the inventions we came up with then. We had scurvy for 200 years. We didn't defeat scurvy for 2 centuries until Captain Cook and his crew finally figured out the science and the biology of it. So it's a similar sort of thing. We push the limits, and we push our technology and our science and our medicine, and with that it allows us to safely and healthily go further and further. There's nothing magic about space exploration. It's just the current type of exploration.
Okay. Okay. So I understand that. A little bit off topic, not off entirely, but I have this question. What do you think of the possibility of extraterrestrial life? Which
We've never seen life anywhere but Earth, but we're
okay.
looking. There's lots of people imagine that they've seen things, but there's zero evidence. Zero.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no conclusive evidence. We found a meteorite in Antarctica that came from Mars. We can tell because of the chemicals in it, the minerals in it, that it came from the crust of Mars. And we saw a little shape in it that might have been a fossil, but it might have been just mineral. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
And there's always people imagining they're seeing UFOs and things. But we have never found any evidence of life anywhere but Earth. But we do know for sure that there's been life on Earth for 4 billion years, steadily, without interruption. 4 billion years of life here. So the real question is, how many other places like Earth are there? In the last 10 years, with our good telescopes, we've been able to see planets around other stars, and thousands of them. Enough now that we can pretty much conclusively say that every star, on average, has at least one planet.
Okay.
And stars we can see because they're bright, and galaxies we can see. And we can suddenly just start, if you ask, what is the possibility, we can start doing the math, because we know roughly how many galaxies there are using the Hubble telescope. And so if you do the math, there are at least 1 septillion planets, which is like billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, heptillion, septillion, an immense number, and 14 billion years of known history. So given 14 billion years and septillion chances, it seems unlikely that there's only life on Earth.
Okay.
It seems unlikely. But that's the probe that just landed on Mars, the InSight probe on Mars. It's going to drill down into Mars and try and answer your question,
Okay.
because Mars was a lot like Earth when Earth formed life. Even the moon wasn't that much different when the Earth formed life. There may be fossilized life or even living things, deep under the crust of the moon. More likely in Mars, maybe in Enceladus, maybe beyond. We don't know. So the answer is nobody knows, but the likelihood seems sort of overwhelming. The real question is, where's the evidence? And we haven't found any evidence yet.
That's
But
true.
that's one of the main drivers of exploration.
Okay. So yeah, you told the story of you dreaming of being an astronaut at the age of 9, and you walked through everything and become right now. What would you recommend to someone that actually interested in it and like um, wanting to kind of walk in that exploration or just astronomy in general?
Um, yeah, a few things. Number one, I think it's great to have a long-term objective and a dream, and some sort of desire, an idea of what you want to do. It's great to be inspired, because it part of the real question is, like, what should I do this weekend? And if you're not dreaming of anything, if you're not trying to do something, then how do you ever know what to do next
Okay.
if you don't know where you're trying to get to? Because life is nothing but a bunch of forks in the road. And if you don't know what your destination is, how do you know which fork to take, or even whether to move forwards? So for me, I think the first important thing is to have some goals in mind, like whatever fascinates you. Someday I would like to discover life somewhere else in the universe, or I would like to walk on Mars, or I would like to understand what a black hole is exactly, or prove whether time travel is possible, or whatever your goal is. Because once you've decided, hey, that's what I want to do, then you can start shaping your own life. And then I think there are three big things that you should keep in mind, maybe four, that when you're shaping your life. Number one is you get one body, one. So take care of it.
Okay.
Try and keep track of what you put in your mouth, and exercise a little bit. Don't take your body for granted, and don't abuse it, because you only get one. The second is, in order to pursue anything complex, you're going to have to learn things and study. And so plan a life of constant self-improvement and study. Always be a student. No matter
Okay.
how much you learn about anything, be a student. I mean, Dr. Stephen Hawking was a student right up until the day he died, always studying and learning and challenging himself. The third is, make decisions and stick with them. Learn how to make decisions. Don't just let life buffet you around.
Okay.
Make decisions, and it's a skill, learning how to make decisions. And you can make little ones. Like you could say, for the entire month of December, I'm going to, whatever you like, I'm going to read one of those books behind me every single day, like those ones on the shelf behind you. Or you could say, I'm going to learn 5 words of, I don't know, some language that you don't speak, 5
Yeah.
words of Portuguese every day, or whatever. But challenge yourself, make a decision, and stick with it. And you will learn that you can deliberately change who you are just through your own decisions. And then the last thing, I think, so have a dream, take care of your body, study and learn, make decisions. I think the last thing is, have fun doing it.
Okay.
Don't wait until sometime in the future to enjoy your own life. Notice the cool stuff. I mean, hey, you're talking to an astronaut today. You live in a nice place. You have a really cool shirt on. There's cool stuff happening all the time. There's things to be grateful for. There's stuff to laugh about all the time. So don't be so focused on the negativity or on some of your own future that you miss your own present. So make a deliberate effort to love your own life. And I think if you put all those things together, then number one, you'll be optimizing your chances to do the things that you're dreaming of. But at the same time, I think you'll have a life that you've enjoyed.
Thank you. That that was, yeah. was really inspiring, and I really like admire your story of dreaming and then just get done and stuff. So
I think it's
yeah,
important.
yeah. I don't have any more questions. You said it's 15 minutes. It's now
Yeah,
21.
that's time. So thank you very much. Well, it was very nice to speak with you, and I wish you good luck with your project, and I look forward to seeing what the results are.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh my